This first reaction setup looks at the combination of two reactants, the identities of which are given in your unknown. When these two reactants are combined, they will form a precipitate. And then, through additional experiments, it can be determined what the identity of the limiting reactant is. In the initial reaction, 25 milliliters of reactant A are combined with exactly 25 milliliters of reactant B. This results in the formation of a white precipitate. This precipitate can then be filtered out through a piece of filter paper. While some mixtures will take an amount of time to pass through filter paper, this experiment looks at the reaction of the filtrate, that is the liquid that passes through the filter paper, with additional components. Notice how the liquid passing through the filter paper is clear. All of the precipitate is contained within the filter paper. With sufficient filtrate collected, we can then move on to the next set of experiments. The filtrate containing any unreacted ions will be mixed with both reactant A and reactant B separately to determine if there is any additional reaction that can happen with the filtrate. Initially, when the filtrate is reacted with reactant B, there is no reaction, and there is no additional solid that is formed. When the filtrate is reacted with additional reactant A white precipitate is formed, indicating a reaction. Based on these observations, you can determine in the original reaction what is the identity of the limiting reactant. In the second reaction, the specific reaction of calcium chloride and sodium hydroxide is observed. The concentrations of these two solutions can be found in your unknown file. Exactly 25.0 milliliters of calcium chloride is reacted with exactly 25.0 milliliters of sodium hydroxide. This causes a precipitate to form. The overall solution and precipitate can then be passed through filter paper. By passing the reaction through the filter paper, all of the unreacted ions pass through the filter and are present in the filtrate, or the liquid that passes through. All of the reacted ions, including all of the limiting reactant, are contained in the precipitate, which is trapped on top of the filter paper. Once some time has passed and enough filtrate has been collected, we can perform a second set of experiments. To the filtrate, which contains all unreacted ions, We can then add additional reactant and perform a second set of experiments. Initially, on one side, by adding additional sodium hydroxide, there is no reaction. By adding additional calcium chloride, we see the formation of a white precipitate, indicating a reaction. Based on these observations, you can determine what is the limiting reactant in this particular setup, as well as using the concentrations given in your unknown file, you can determine the theoretical yield of the reaction, as well as specifically how much solid was present in the reaction, taking into account the solubility values of the products.